And another program that UNA USA has undertaken that's gotten a lot of publicity and a lot of high-powered star power is one called the Adopt a Minefield. We have some footage on that we're going to roll right now, but give us an overview of what is the Adopt a Minefield program. I know you bring in a lot of different groups into this program to participate.
After the signing of the Banned Landmine Treaty in Montreal, the United States, of course, didn't sign the treaty. There was a big movement on the part of civil society, which was dedicated to trying to find out how can you improve the awareness in this country about the importance of this issue of clearing landmines and not planting any new ones. We started a unique program in this country, which was to raise private money to clear landmines. In fact, many people were skeptical. They think that this is a government responsibility. It's not something the private sector should get into. And now, 7 years later, and almost $25 million added to clearing landmines and helping landmine survivors around the world, we're the largest, by far, private entity contributing to clearing landmines as well as raising consciousness in this country. We've gotten Paul McCartney to be our host and our patron, and he always, in every gig he does around the world, the last gig has a No More Landmines t-shirt that he puts on. And he has been our spokesperson and our largest supporter who's put us on the map. We're the best known of the landmines activists in the world today.
And of course that brings you right into interacting with the United Nations. The UN is very involved in clearing landmines. The U.S. government contributes to that, so it brings a large number of partners together to work on this.
Well, it's a UN issue. It's one of the major UN issues, promoted originally by member states and civil society, and it's one of the new trendy things that's happening in international organizations, where NGOs actually create legislation which becomes part of the international structure of laws. And so we're part of it. We work with the UN development program, UNDP as we call it, to carry out our landmine clearance, and we contract with usually UN offices in the 7 countries where we're clearing landmines to take our money and clear the landmines. So we're direct cooperating with the UN in everything we do.
Well, it's a very important program, and my guest today is Ambassador Bill Luers. Ambassador Luers is the president of the United Nations Association of the USA. He spent 13 years as president of the Metropolitan Museum in New York City and has had, I think, a 31-year career in the United States foreign policy, or the foreign service, I should say, and is former ambassador to the former Czechoslovakia and to Venezuela. And we're talking about the United Nations Association of the USA. We've talked about a few of your programs. You have so many, it would be impossible to cover all of them today.
Right.
But a lot of our viewers are people who are sitting perhaps in Topeka, Kansas, or perhaps in Frankfurt, Kentucky.
What is this organization all about? I
UNA
still don't get
USA.
it.
Well, you know, they can find out by going to www.unausa.org, can't they? Right.
If they're really interested. Yeah.
That's right. But let's talk a little bit about your chapters around the country. You have about 175 chapters. What is the purpose of these? These are local organizations. What is the purpose of your chapters?
They began, again, after the founding of the United Nations, on the part of firm commitment by a lot of people in this country, including the leadership of the country, our presidents, Roosevelt and Truman, and virtually every president since then have promoted the UN as a part of the dream of the U.S. nation after the Second World War. And our job is to make sure that this dream is held to, that people continue to believe that through international cooperation we can achieve peace. Without it, there's not a chance. With all the setbacks that have taken place, our members, the leaders of our chapters throughout this country, and the people who work with them believe that we as Americans, as global citizens from this country, who believe in democracy and in cooperation and teamwork wherever we go, should be a part of this UN experience. And our missionary message almost is that message. Now, stick with the UN and we can work with the U.S. sticks with the UN, it's going to be a much stronger organization, and through the UN we can achieve a better environment for the entire world.
And of course, UNA-USA is a research organization, but it's also a membership organization, and people can learn more about it by going to that www.unausa.org website, and they can find out if there's a chapter in their vicinity, and if there's not, they can still become a member of UNA-USA. Sure. So there's not a problem there. Now, UNA-USA...
Or they can support UNA-USA without even becoming a member.
Without even becoming a member,
if they're interested.
If they're interested in that,
yeah.
Yes. Now, you're not part of the United Nations. UNA-USA is totally separate from the United Nations. You're an independent 501c3 organization, but you still are very interested in the United Nations because, again, that is the only international forum in the world that brings the countries of the world together to deal with this myriad of international problems.
The irony is that when we come to the United Nations, very often they think we're part of the U.S. government, and when we go to the U.S. government, they think we're here only to represent the UN, and we're a classic non-governmental organization, active member of the civil society in this country that stands apart from both the U.S. government and from the United Nations to help them get together and understand from each other. And that's our role. And we continue to do it as well as we can.
Exactly.